Well, welcome to TOYSREVIL. I'm going to do a page flip from Wizard magazines with this issue dated March 2006, because I was going through a bunch of Wizard magazines that I am thinking of putting up for sale at Miku Market. And I'm still a bit torn because a huge part of me wants to keep this archival, but then at the same time I recognize I'm a hoarder, so I'm torn between keeping this and not being able to read it even if it's with me, versus letting it go to our weekend flea market. Having said that, so what I thought I would do is do a page flip of one of the select issues, the random issues that I pulled out, and maybe to also share what were in magazines that were like the point of info back in early to mid 2000s, before the internet superhighway flooded everything with information. Good and bad, because I'm of the persuasion of physically holding something, so be it comic books or magazines and whatnot. And I was a straight up convert of Wizard magazines and such lah. Having said that, I pulled this out of the group to have a look. Now, of course, I have Sean Cassaday's X-Men. I think it's Joss Whedon era. I'm a bit torn because it feels very vivid, but I realized this was like 20 years ago. Joss Whedon's run on X-Men, Astonishing X-Men. So having said that, enough rambling, so I'll flip through. Maybe I'll chat a little bit, maybe I won't. And I apologize in advance if I don't reply to folks' comments, because I'm not necessarily looking at the screen. I know it's just a bad habit of mine. I'm just not in tuned enough to be able to multitask what is needed. With that said, time to flip through. Ads. I remember buying this DVD, Ultimate Avengers, the movie. I don't even know if I watched it though. That's the irony. This is a wonderful spread. Ooh, wonderfully colored. Astonishing X-Men 13, February 2006. Nice lah, bro. Nice. I'm sorry, I might be shifting to and fro because I'm not having this on a landscape format. So we just glance through on this side lah, and I'll shift in and out whenever I'm able to, without irritating folks too much. I think, is this Adam Hughes? Lovely lah, Miss Marvel. Basically swimsuit and leggings. Not gonna deny it. Maybe I'll piss people off, but hey, it is what it is. What I loved about Wizard magazines and stuff that which I tried to replicate in my fanzine a few years back is there's always things to read. There's something about a written handheld format versus online that I am still in love with. Not that I read a lot of novels. I don't. Not at all. I'm a comic book magazine sort of person. So, but at the same time, I do appreciate the written word lah. Ooh, this is nice, Cyberforce. Plenty of ads. I'm sorry you're not seeing this side. Mirror Mask. I remember Mirror Mask. I didn't get the DVD. I bought a VCD. Can't say I loved it, but because it was Dave McKean lah, so I enjoyed it for what it was. Yeah, where is that VCD anyway? You can see toy news. Now you see on entertainment websites. But back then it's all written form, and I appreciate it because it's written form, so a lot of images and news has to be given in advance. And then I appreciated that context of, like, news in advance, the images in advance. So sometimes if it's just sketches, it's great. But now on the information superhighway on the internet, where things are literally instantaneous, even if it's just a post or image, right? Some rather, I peddle in the information as well. I'm on the TOYSREVIL blog, so I shouldn't slam it. But as a consumer, sometimes it is information overload. Knowing everything is great, but do I actually retain anything in my memories and impressions? That's always the tricky bit, I feel. And a lot of times, be it in comics, in stories, in toys, we are overloaded with so many things, so many information. What comes out at the retains in your memory is something that clicks individually, but at the same time, in a sea of information and image, sea of information and images out there, it becomes a bit tricky to maintain that memory of. At least that's what I feel. Am I making sense of what I'm saying? I have no clue, man. I'm just rambling on. Oh my gosh. I mean, I love the black and white sketches. Oh, this is wonderful. And then when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, do I want to sell this magazine? Not really. I want to keep this. But we know after this, Kate Bosworth, Superman Returns. Nice, Injustice for All. Is this George Perez? Don't know, man. Can't really see for clear. Despero. A lot of my comics is... I stopped collecting comics actively in early 2000s. So a lot of my comic knowledge and memory, it's pre-2000s. Pre-2000-ish. So it's a bit tricky right now. Oh, Kelsey Grammer coming back as the Beast in motion capture. This is how it looked then, which I didn't really appreciate when the live fashion movie came out. It's like not my bag of interest, but hey, folks liked it and people liked it, and we are allowed not to like what we don't like. I feel there's a choice. Really, I reckon at that point when Bryan Singer's X-Men series came out, I mean, not totally Bryan Singer, but that series came out, they were all more adult folks already. So the longevity aspect of them might be a bit tricky. If things are currently, we go to trilogies, then sequels become prequels. There's always the issue, not just necessarily of story. People just concoct a fictional story. Good or bad, we'll watch it, we'll bitch about it, but we'll watch it. But the longevity of growing up with the characters, somehow it's a bit capped already. Then you can't grow up with them. Of course, at the same time, they're not signing like 12-year contracts, 10-year contracts like Marvel does. But it becomes a finite output for the characters that we might invest our interest in and enjoy. The next thing you know, they literally get too old. This is nice. Concept sketches. Another thing which I totally adore. It's like living vicariously through print. Versus I see online, everything is intangible. Scroll. Click out a browser, that's it. But in a comic book format, in a magazine format, as opposed to like me collecting trading cards and prints, not as much prints as I would love to, but it's something tangible that even if it's hoarded, like myself, when you keep it, it becomes tangible because it's in your hand. And I as I say again, I'm a perverse. I'm previously said multiple times, I'm a tangible person, and I love things that is tangible in my life. Joss Whedon. Yeah, I adored his early run on Astonishing X-Men, without a doubt. Irregardless of what he has done as a person and what everybody talks about, his run in comics, and he got to separate stuff. His run in Astonishing X-Men was exceptional for me lah. Is Jocasta? Nice lah. Reading the comments, yes, Zell visual art, 2006 happening lah. Great for you, best year of your life. I do not disagree with you because it's your life, but at the same time, those are good years actually. the early to mid 2000s were good years, I have to say, before all the stories not run dry. We run the gamut of then I run out of stories, then everybody create new stories, then it becomes a bit like it somehow not to go on a rant. It's like how I enjoy comic books to be before. Then it became grim and gritty. Everything becomes dark. It was like it didn't necessarily become the comic books that I fell in love with. But sometimes on and off, it's not kiddie, but I don't need that harsh a reality, because I look out the window and that's reality already. And sometimes it compounds that reality. It's the same as go on social media now, where I'm doom scrolling, and sometimes it's just flooded with overt negativity. It's like, yes, it's life, but I'm facing negativity every day in my life already lah. And initially for me anyways, love Daniel Acuna. Initially for me anyways, when I started reading comic books, it's to escape reality. That's the irony lah. Irony. Yes, sorry. Zelvisha art. It is March 2006. That's the cover issue date. Cover issue date. Yeah. And then coming back to the pages, Star Wars. I mean, I gotta say, for myself, I couldn't really get so much into the Star Wars comics because I enjoyed the movie too much, and that by far overshadowed any media for me, anyways. So I didn't really follow it. And sometimes I feel it's a miss. It's a miss for me, a loss for me. But I don't really, I'm never caught on board. Even though I have multiple trade paperbacks and comics which I bought because I wanted to read, but never read them. The irony, right? I admit lah, I'm a hoarder lah. And this is how Drax looked like, 2006. This is how he looked like when he fought Thanos. This is more the movie version, I think. Was this the movie adapted version? 2006. I don't remember really. Not immediately, anyways. Pascal Ferry. Nice, man. I love this now, because now as I recognize, as I'm rambling on, these were like the up and coming artists back then, 2006, and these are regular folks now that you the superstars that you see their art for lah. And I love that about archival magazines like this. It's like online, you need to click previous pages to find it or search. But on books, be it comics or magazines, you just flip it open, and if you can search, it's like for this, it's partially written on the cover. So yeah, so the importance of a cover, as much information on here as the information that's all on the magazines here. How to be able to recognize what you need. Marvel Zombies. I remember when this came out, I was craving over it, and now that the animation come out, it's interesting because there is a long lapse. This is 20 years old already. There's a long lapse, less than 20 years old. There's a long lapse between the comic and the animation. And sometimes I don't deny that, it took so long, but at the same time, great, it has a new lease of life. And that's as important, not just to me as a consumer since then, but it's also to new folks who are in the scene, who are into the comics, who are in the animation, where older concepts get revitalized. I mean, it's one thing when people talk about squeezing the bone dry of remakes and whatnot, which I understand. Yes, if it's done well, it's all good, brings up memories. If it's done badly, then you remember the old ones, so you say cannot compare. But at the same time, I don't expect the comics to grow old with me, even though I've collected them, I've read them. It's to me, comics are toys, because I blog about toys now. It's essentially the same thing. We have our own time, or old-time collectors and readers, but we are also introducing stuff to the folks new to the scene, that there will be the next generation or following generation, and more people that are still in the scene, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I don't want my enjoyment of comics to stop at my age, because there are other readers, there are other folks, same as toys. So what if I bought toys back in the good old days when I started Toys Are Evil in 2000? way before 2005 blog. 2000s, I was already buying toys, but not necessarily as toys are evil. I was keep bashing 1/6 scale. So I look at my posts and pictures from 20 years back, and it's like, wow, I miss those days. But at the same time, imagine all the folks that I know of are only during that time. I mean, they're still buddies, which is all good. But I want the scene to blossom as well. I want the scene to get bigger because maybe you get to see more things, newer things as well. If not, we're just rehashing old stuff. No offense, it's like 80s bands that I totally adore. If I miss the songs, I go back and search for their songs now. But it doesn't mean I'll just solely listen to 80s songs and not anything else. So even if somebody does a cover version of their tracks, I either enjoy it or I don't. But at least there is new life. There's a new lease in life. Yeah, sorry I'm rambling and not even looking at the page. The Walking Dead. I got into Walking Dead comic books much later. Before the TV series, live action, I got into comics much later. I remember buying single issues, back issues, but I couldn't get the early issues. Then I started to hog the trade paperbacks. I essentially stopped because, my allure for... I mean, I will always love zombies concept. But I reached a point where I don't really... I lost in favor of it. So I basically stopped straight. Ironically, I stopped all my zombie comics and even zombie toys. I bought quite a bit of zombie toys just before the Walking Dead TV series from AMC. There's a reason why maybe I won't talk about now. It's just a bit too morbid to share on this joyous page flip of comic books. Living with Zombies. Nice. Lord of the Rings. Ooh, Moon Knight. Check this out. David Fincher? Ooh, not David Fincher. David Finch. David Fincher is the director, which I love. Aish, crossover. No, it's like this. Oh my gosh. The art. The art. Sorry, I've not been reading your text. Zell Visual Art. Thank you for sharing. Congrats for getting married 2009, bro. And I mean it. Ooh. Frank Cho? Is it Frank Cho? Very distinct, healthy women that he draws. Oh, this is a wonderful spread in a comic magazine. Oh, this is nice. There's a thin line between, because I collect trading cards, I used to collect trading cards. So have this in a small trading card is great to keep, even though I might not be staring at it. Once I get older, staring at something small becomes a chore. But seeing a full page like that, I can only complain, why is that split? But at least there's image to look at lah. Does it make sense? Oh, nice preview pages. I missed, as much as I miss comic books, I'm not actively buying now. But I also appreciate preview pages like this, because it really feeds the allure. Allure. It's 3,000. Frank Miller. And every time I'm looking at stuff, I have plenty of stories to tell. And I realize the stories are just my own memory stories. Might not necessarily be interesting to folks to read. And I realize after a while, I consciously stop myself from sharing. Because I don't know. There's no feedback. Nobody says anything. So I don't know if what I'm saying interests people. All I can gauge is the amount of views. So whether or not I deduce it's a lack of interest because of lack of views, versus maybe this is all what people are interested in lah. I don't know if I'm making sense. That is okay. I'm just rambling. All my stuff is rambles lah. I mean, at this point in time, 2000, I wasn't into action figures. I was into 1/6 scale figures. Action figures I dabbled because Hans Ichi, everything by. Years later, I haven't been... I have this series. Oh my gosh, I love this series. Because I love Hellboy, and I love they adapted Mike Mignola's aesthetics to the series. But having said that, it comes back to action figures. I haven't been that loaded up on action figures through the years. So my love for it isn't as strong as... Oh, I love this. Strong as 1/6 scale. I don't know if folks remember the Greatest American Hero. And this is the uniform. And for a period of time, I actually wished, excuse me, I actually wished there was a red t-shirt that had the logo emblem. I'm sure there was. But I didn't manage to find it. A lot of my t-shirts and stuff back then were purely from comic book shops, from preview magazines. I didn't extend beyond comic book shops buying stuff like that. You know, the aspect of loyalty was just my skewed aspect of loyalty. Because somehow it feels as if comic book shops merch is direct from the creators. I mean, or the folks that's involved in the creators, versus if I buy from a t-shirt shop at one, I don't know if it's legit. I was so staunch on legitimacy of the iconology and designs that I totally missed out on. In the end, through the years, yes, legit offerings is important, but at the same time, I also need to, I feel right now, because of my regrets, I have somehow need to honor my own memories as well of what I had wanted, but because it translates to missed out and regrets of not getting something. But that's just me. You don't have to agree. This is hilarious. Don't have to agree. Nearing the end. Let's have a bit of flip through. Talk. I mean, I love the reading aspect lah. As much as I love the images, I love reading about it. Because I mean, I said this before and I'll share again. I learned my English through comic books. And people might scoff at it, but that's the reality. I remember my literature teacher, Mr. Bell. We were going through Great Expectations, Merchant of Venice. It didn't click in me at all whatsoever in the terms of English use and stories. I could not adapt. I could not figure it in my mind where I'm reading. Back then it was Marvel and DC. Marvel 2-in-1s, fights. And I appreciate Mr. Bell, love him for it, that he triggered something. He made me see on a POV point of view, like the characters in the stories in, for example, Merchant of Venice, Tale of Two Cities, to treat the characters and the stories like a comic book, be it they have superpowers or not, but literally is imagine comic book superheroes without the powers. Then you're reading their conversations, you're reading between the lines, you see the context of what's happening in the stories. And I could relate to comic books, but in that point of view, I could relate to literature. I still feel literature lah. What can I say? I mean, the irony of it all, I still feel my literature rock bottom, but I appreciated the understanding of it. Sorry, man, wasted your time telling a story of my failed exams, examination results. I wanted to ask, any of you out there remembered comic book price guides? And if your purchase of comic books and value of comic books was based off price guides like this? I remember when I started out, I wanted to, but I lost interest in finding out, because after a while, I bought comics to keep and to read. I did not buy comics to sell. There are certain issues, yes, I bought because Image Comics, when they came out, I got multiple copies of Spawn. But I remember hawking it off a couple of months later because nobody wanted it. And now I regretted it because I sold at a miserable price. But at the same time, it's, once the bubble bursts, you wake up. But whatever comic prices that I know right now, I just based on the comic book shops. Anyway, that's just me. So give a pause. I'm gonna miss out quite a bit of. I can't see the comments already. I'm losing our comments. But I remember these. This reminded me of back in the day, Singapore's national newspapers, where they had cinema screenings when they put cinema times, screening times in the newspapers, and it was as busy as much as this. So reading then and trying to read this is just a bit too much lah. Plus also wanted ads. So it's a bit tricky. Wow, that's a lot, man. That is a load of price guides. I totally forgot about these. Nice. Yeah, I appreciate these. Black and whites. Top 5 exclusives. I mean, I love stuff like this. And to me, it's part of what I replicate, or used to replicate on the TOYSREVIL blog as well. Yes, you have your toy news, you have your, not price guides, but certain things. But once in a while, you have a little, I mean, I love to do top 10s. I wish I could do top 10s. And in my mind, I wanted to do top 10s continuously. But again, and not as much resources as I'm able to. So maybe right now, one of the more active ones are top 10 toys, which I seek help from friends and collectors to contribute. I mean, I love top 10s. I love to see, not necessarily about what's the best or not, but what I get to see what other folks collect. And sometimes there are things that I do not know exist, and that's as important to me because I'm not like an active toy buyer, toy collector as much as I want to be. Oh, nice press. As I want to be. I'm a failed toy collector because I can't afford things that I want. But at the same time, I live vicariously through other folks. Nice. Comic grading, even back then, 2006. Comic grading already. I mean, I'm sure it's been around for a while, but even like top 10 CGC. You know, we are dwelling in a culture that has lasted way beyond what anybody has just come on board knows about. And discovering it is the pure joy of it. Shows and cons. At one point, in the early point, I stopped reading this because if I don't have a chance to go to the States, for example, like San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, it was my wish list to go to. But after all these years, I'm in my mid-50s already. I'm not stepped foot on American soil. And it has become further and further a reach for me. Not just financially, but also physically. In the end, I've given up trying to attend, or thinking or hoping or wishing to attend San Diego Comic-Con, unless I get a full turnaround. But if not, it has become a lost wish list for me. So, but having said that, back in the early days, early 2000s, when I read this, it's like, yeah, I wish I could, but through the years, I'm jaded by my own blog and lack of abilities lah. What can I say? It's a reality, right? I'm not shy to share the reality because it is what it is. Lost World, nice. Warlord. I never could get into Warlord, but I always thought it's pretty cool. Pretty cool in terms of concept. The story, Bart Sears. Oh my gosh. I didn't know. Maybe I've forgotten. All covers Bart Sears. I love this muscle dudes lah. Having said that, this is it. The end. Get excited, and this is it. This is the end. Yeah. Now I may have a look at hello Monkey Paw. How about attending in Japan? I mean, I wish I would. I wish I could, but logically, at the end of the day, it's a simple thing. I cannot afford anything. I cannot afford anything. Japan is a wish list. Japan has always been a wish list for me to attend, not just Comic-Con, to go to Japan. All these years, it's my ultimate wish list. But having able to afford it, that's another thing. But I might go next year with family. But I need to temper my expectations, much less go for toy hunts and whatnot. I can't even afford to do that in Singapore free markets, much less you want to go overseas. But then again, I don't know. We don't know what the future brings. And I really don't know. I've stopped thinking about what the future brings. If it happens, it happens. Yeah. As much as I want to do another flip through, because I'm getting excited, but I realize my brain is slowly turning to much age old 2001 things you need to know about 2005. I hope that answers you. Let me read through comments. Hey, thanks for sharing Zal Visual Art. Oh, Monkey Paw, rock and roll, bro. Love you. Let's chat. I'm not shy to this type of things, man. I'm happy, man. I'm happy to be able. I used to really wanted to travel. Now to share a little bit of personal things that people might not want to listen to. I used to really love to travel, especially when I started the blog. The allure of toy hunting. But then once I had a stroke in 2010. Folks that know, they know. And they, of course, they give me that roll their eyes. Oh my God, I'm telling that story again. But once I had my stroke in 2010, physically, health-wise, I'm not as on par as I would love to be, and health deteriorating through the years. So I curbed my desire to travel. At the same time, financially, everything affected. It's a bit tricky because initially I would love to travel to buy toys. Come on, I'm not going to deny it, man. I am for the toy hunt. I am for the toy hunt. Come on. But I reached a point where health is an issue because of my diet. Then it bugged me because even if I travel and buy toys, I might not necessarily be able to eat as much as I would love to. And sometimes that bugs me quite a bit. It bugs me quite a bit. Not that I need rich, luxurious food, but certain foods I need to restrain myself. So the aspect of what I need to do for myself is try to get as healthier as I can. I can't say I'm going to get 100% recovery, come on, but get as healthier as I can. So if in the event I do cheat, I'm admitting I'm cheating. If I do cheat on my diet, I can still take it. Does it make sense? Toys, cannot buy toys. Yeah lah, that's been my life for the past, since when I started the blog lah. That's why I started the blog, so I can talk about toys that I cannot afford. That's like, if that makes sense. Having said that, I apologize if I'm oversharing. But hey man, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning into this. Hey, thanks Monkey Paul. Let's chat again. But all good, man. And looking at this, right, after flipping through this, today I wanted to go and within this week to top up my TOYSREVIL table at Miku Market, our weekend flea market. And I wanted to bring all these along to make available. But this is giving me pause a bit. So we'll see. I mean, it's the reality of relinquishing the past. I'm not a huge fan of relinquishing the past because it is a past. Can't forget it. But maybe as I'm actively filming all these, as I'm flipping through, they become my archive of the past. If that makes sense. Ooh, nice. What is this repeat of the image? Nice. Astonishing X-Men. But anyway, it becomes an archive as much as the TOYSREVIL blogs and archive, all this video has become an archive. So instead of new, because everybody can see new, all your social media, everybody see new anyway. So what makes whatever I'm telling you different? All I can do is amplify what is available. And it is so cool because you can go direct to the artists, direct to the producers to find out more. Provided sometimes it's tricky because as an artist, as a producer, maybe you just want to do art. You don't want to end up spending a whole chunk of time to sell what you create. But it has reached a point where you end up needing to sell. I think it's a not fulfilling, it's a vicious cycle. You create, end up you are the clearest person to explain what you do. In the past, I used to do a lot of Q&As and question and answers, but it's always a bit tricky because I feel as if what I'm doing is amplifying and being able to share your visions and your intent. But somehow through the years, I feel that folks might not necessarily be, I don't know if it's in tune with the word. It's not fair. I know it's not fair to folks who have contributed, but maybe it feels as if there's a crunch of a timeline. They might not everybody wants to commit to that. They want to do it at their own time. I feel I might be totally wrong, which is totally understandable because, as I mentioned, even as a blog, it's like I'm flooded with information every day. I also need to editorialize where I'm able to research enough to share something without directly embedding something, which I'm doing right now already. I'm embedding Instagram images. I'm embedding images from Twitter, X, formerly Twitter. So then what's the point? I might as well just put links on Facebook and just go and check it out. But I want to be able to provide more things and more images where sometimes on folks' feeds it's like it's spread out between a few days. But if I can show you everything in a single post, then maybe that helps you, eggs you on to go on. I mean, I'm saying all this because I'm also justifying to myself what's the relevance of Toys Are Evil. What's the relevance in this day and age to be able to share what I knew from before? It's like an old uncle telling you stories from, back in the day. I'm like, there's only a limited amount of what folks want to know. But at the same time, I appreciate social media like this because there isn't necessarily a need to I need to read it now. I need to know it now. A lot of times I do lives, they inevitably all link to my reels afterwards. So you want to see it later, you want to view it later, all good. Then after this, I'll upload to my YouTube, because on Instagram, you can't pause. Maybe you can pause, but I can't really necessarily pause. So to me, that's a pain. That's a real pain. So I go to YouTube. So anybody wants to read and pause, all good. Although the resolution sucks after a while, I have no idea. But then again, that's my way of doing things, and that's my way of trying to archive and share things, because my life, I remember this. This is 2000s. Right? All these are mid-2000s. My heyday of collecting stuff was 90s, mid-90s. And to a lot of folks, they are not vintage enough. They're not as far removed enough, because a lot of folks like vintage or 50s, 60s, 70s, wow, value. But 90s, in a few years' time, they will be vintage already. As much as my life in the 80s, I document as much as I have now, maybe at the most in songs. But I don't have a lot of photos of the 80s. After a while, I don't really want to utilize other folks' photos and images as well, which I feel is always a waste, because we are missing out. It is me going to town. This is a short rant. It's me going to town, and I look through, I go through Orchard Road in Singapore, and I look at the buildings, and I remember snippets of the past that I lived through. I remember this shop was here. I remember there was a record shop here. I remember this road, but everything else looks very vague. So I'm a stranger in my own country, but at the same time, not that I travel as much, but it is a interesting juxtaposition of where we are, what we do, and now in with the information that we are flooded with, we're constantly in the flux of what's new, what's happening now. But what we know from the past is slowly diminishing. So to me, at the same time, the value of comics, magazines, toys, has become an archival, tangible thing from the past. You buy it now, yes, but a couple of years later, I remember buying it there. I remember the artist. I remember this design. I used to collect this. I always the reality was, recently I've been thinking about my trip to Hong Kong. This was in the mid-2000s with my buddy Mark. And I constantly remember it, because it's my one and only trip to Hong Kong. 1 week worth of toy hunt. Whoa, best. I wish I could share all. But what I remember from a trip now is what I had held in my hand in the different shops that I went to, that I put back. Whole, nice, okay, I put back. Because I didn't collect these toys then. But years later, 20 years later, those were the toys I collected. So it's like, ooh, I remembered things that I let go versus things that I bought. And now the things that I bought back then, 20 years ago, 2004, 2005, I no longer collect them. Yes, they're in my hoard. I'll excavate them. I call it excavate because they're all boxed up now. Especially when I had stroke. A lot of my toys were boxed up because they needed to keep space for me in my wheelchair. I was in a wheelchair in the early days of recovery. Now I don't need. But having said that, everything was boxed up. So it's through the years I slowly unbox and excavate my treasures, my toys, my comics. Comics, oh my gosh, comics were all packed in the far end of the room. Now I'm slowly digging everything out. If you go through my feed and my Instagram, I blog about it as well. You will see pictures of really old stuff. But then again, when I say really old, 90s, 2000s, and these are all the result of that. I just found a stack of these magazines just a week ago with my other lifestyle magazines. I was in interior design, so I realized and I remember I had a whole stack of interior design magazines, reference books, and I was into movies and film, entertainment. So I had tons of all these. So all of these, I don't know how it reflects to everybody else that collects these. It is a sign of what my life was. So one aspect of, as they say, moving forward with life is to eject all the older ones so you can move forward. And I've said this before, this is very personal to me. Because I'm not in an active situation to secure a future, meaning to constantly buy, constantly work and receive things from the future. Imagine if I relinquish all my older stuff. Then I'm left with, nothing. I'm left with nothing intangible enough. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm sorry, man. I don't know if it's not supposed to be. It's not as deep as I'm making it out to be. But at the same time, the past that I have grounds me or where I came from. Whether or not it indicates or shows me what I am to do moving forward versus he doesn't now. Maybe I'm just a hoarder lah. But at the same time, I no longer deny my hoarding ways. This is part of me. It's just to maintain the hoarding lah. Because if I don't buy magazines, that's the best excuse. I no longer buy magazines as much because my eyesight also lah, because of due to stroke and whatnot. I don't buy magazines as well. So keeping these becomes an excuse to retain my archive, as opposed to toys. I still actively buy toys, not as much as I would want to, not as big and certain quality as I want to. No offense to the folks that I buy. It's what I can afford, I buy a little bit. What I can afford, I buy a little bit. It's from bigger size toys, which I loved before, become smaller size toys. Even if it's Pop Mart, I mean, I love Pop Mart for it, because they let me have a chance to live my toy life affordably, if that makes sense. Having said that, yeah, I know I'm going off on a tangent. Coming back to the magazines, I apologize if I'm going on a tangent. Coming back to the magazines, yeah, I've just spent a short period of time justifying whether or not I should keep all these magazines. And I mean, I'm not in the game enough to ask, oh, so what do y'all think? Should I keep all these magazines or buy? Because at the end of the day, even if I put this on sale, people might not buy it lah. That's the irony of it. That is the pure irony of it. I mean, I look at this, it's like Keanu Reeves, John Constantine. It reminds me of when the movie came out, the news of the movie came out. I was a huge fan of Hellblazer comics. I was like, no, this is, oh my God, American Hollywood version. No, what are you doing to my Constantine? Oh, Constantine, oh my God. Then when I watched the movie, yeah, I like it lah. I like it. The movies such as this and all other movies that are adaptations of comic books, the only way I can reconcile with them is I don't need for them to be 100% faithful, if that makes sense. Because if I want it faithful, I just look at the comics itself lah. If it's a disappointment, I go to the comics lah. You know, sometimes remakes, it's like if it sucks, I go back to the original because they exist. It's like I can just choose not to watch it. Move on. Wasted my tickets that I paid for. Move on, because the old ones exist. Hence the importance of archives, because it's still here. So now they're talking about a sequel to Constantine, Hellblazer. I mean, I love it they didn't call it Hellblazer. Sequel to Constantine with Keanu Reeves now. I'm like, of course, immediately I think it is John Wick in a suit lah. Because he's not going to shave. He's going to have his long hair. But it's interesting. I don't know. Don't overthink. But having said that, I mean, I look at stuff like this. This is 2005, February 2005. I mean, then I love the connection. I love the connection that I have for it. I don't need everybody to have this connection. Because anybody now, be it they find a DVD, I don't know if physical media is in or not. Oh my God, rambling to myself. Okay, I'll stop apologizing. Think of this as a conversation I'm having with you. So even if it's DVD, I have the DVD, I'm not selling it. Things I sell are things that I don't keep necessarily, but I remember the DVD of it. Is it going to be the same, the sequel, the same as this? I don't know. Is it the same as the Hellblazer comic? Obviously it wasn't. But at the same time, I love options. I'm a greedy Chinese dude. It's like going for a buffet. There's so many options. Either I say the food all sucks versus I like this instead. I'll take this. I'll take this. Then I'll just rather focus on what I liked. Unless the general perception is everything sucks. And of course, I'm not that naive to have sunshine blowing out of my ass, you get what I mean? But it's like, okay, we make do with the most. Certain comic books I remember in the past I adored. Then things changed. Yeah, I stopped collecting it. I whine about it. But I move on because there's so many other comics to look at. It's the same as toys. I used to follow artists. Then after that, their concepts changed, their designs changed. But there's so many people out there. How much loyalty only... No, that's not fair to say. I have a term for it. Maybe I'm not too tricky to say it. Loyalty depends on how much you can afford it, which might not be fair. I know it's not necessarily fair to say. That's the first thing that popped into mind. But at the same time, because for me, I'm imbued with so many visual stuff that I want, I'm a buffet guy. Then it's like, for example, I remember the early years when Clarke Quay Flea Market. I don't know if folks here know of Clarke Quay Flea Market. When it came out, I remember Bear Brick Series 1, where folks buy the entire series and entire box and they part out and they create sets and sell. And I've always regretted not buying entire sets. Because back then, I'm not a completist. I don't need to complete the whole set. I just pick and choose what I liked. Years later, I should have just bought the whole set. Because purely value and not just FOMO, it's like, yeah, I could have had the whole set. Now I was sprinkling of what I liked. Then also realizing I just got greedy. Maybe I'll just get what I liked and that's it. Same for trading cards. When I bought trading cards, when I started trading cards, I'm looking at it, it's like, why? I bought comics first. Then trading card, why buy pieces of cards? So it's like, it literally is blind box. Trading card packs are like blind box. You open up, you don't know what is it. It's like, why am I paying for these? And next thing you know, I remembered, I started to get chase cards. I pulled chase cards. Then of course the glimmer of the gambling suddenly works. Oh my God, a chase card. Then slowly I wanted to create sets, because then I can enjoy entire sets. Because most of the trading cards, they are torn between character profiles versus story. Sometimes they encompass the entire arc, different arcs in a story. And ironically, I might already have the comics, but it's like a short version. It's like Cliff Notes version, and I enjoyed that. I'm a hoarder, not a completist, so that makes sense. Then after a while, I ended up buying boxes of trading cards because I wanted to complete a set, and also with the spare sets, I could sell them. This was in the mid-90s. Then in the end, I'm stuck with endless trading card sets, which is the irony. But at the same time, not all card sets or brands provide entire sets. The hand collation, we call it hand collation, where I part out all the cards and then we sequentially, the numbers, you form sets. And not all brands have good collation. And hence some of the stuff I sell at Miko Market and also online, the price is high, even if we think compared to overseas price, because to get that collation, right, I need to sacrifice collation. It's just entire sets. It just does not collate. I have a few sets right now that I don't mention, that I bought like a couple of boxes. I couldn't even complete a set. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but that's the reality of trading cards versus comics or magazines. It's a straight up purchase, buy, read. I'm happy or not. If I'm happy or not, there's instant gratification, if that makes sense. So even if I reread it years later, there is instant gratification. Versus, let's say, trading cards. Let's say right now, just beside it, I'm collating trading cards. When I say hand collated, it's like sequential numbers. And then when I form a set, this is a set, or this is a set. It's Jumanji. Whew, I forgot I had Jumanji. Oh my gosh, I collected everything. So I collected all this stuff. But the instant gratification comes when I complete a set. But the journey to get a complete set becomes more harrowing as you count away, that you realize lesser and lesser opportunities to get the numbers that you need. So it becomes a long-term regret. It's I don't want to pull relationships to it, but it's like a long-term investment of attention. Then when you get a set, yay! But you don't get a set, it's like, oh man, what's going on, man? But in terms of comics, that's what I liked about comics and magazines. Not magazines. Comics is instant gratification. Buy, read, I like or don't like, bitch about it, rave about it, that's it, done. Years later, reread it, epic. For magazines like Wizard magazines, which a lot of online is now, put aside online, just say magazines itself, it's all preview teasers. What's going on? What's happening next? This is what you look out for. It's like, oh man, it's building anticipation. And that's what I enjoy. It's like even movies. So when live action movies came out from comics, it's like, all this for building anticipation. Now, I feel it's whatever, it's like Avengers Doomsday. Every other day I see leaks. It's not building anticipation. It's just giving me information overload that I know for myself. It'll just push me away from the actual movie itself. If ever one day it comes out, it's like, yeah, I knew it before. Same thing happened for Wolverine and Deadpool. So many things were pushed out. When I actually finally saw it on Disney Plus, I loved it, but I wasn't excited anymore. Because I've seen this before. Is this Brian Hitch? Sorry, I'm distracted. Because I'm loving the art. Ooh. Trevor Hashin. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm distracting myself. So that's a sign that I'm over-talking, that I'm oversharing, that I'm losing my interest in whatever I'm doing already. And That's the reason why folks don't meet up with me to chat, because I'll go on a tangent if it's something I enjoy lah. That's it. Oh, Tom Welling. Smallville. I wasn't really that much into the TV series. Sad to say. I was into the Arrowverse during the CW time. So it's different eras, different appreciation of stuff. Interesting. So anyway, thank you for listening in. I think it's time for me to pause. I don't know how long this video has gone on for, but I appreciate listening. And yeah, I got to move on for the day. It's going to be 3 o'clock. I'm going to grab a late lunch. I'm going to make lunch. And then that's it. Thank you all for tuning in. Sorry for the quick end. And apologize on folks who have been sharing their comments. I'm sorry. I haven't been reading as earnestly as I should be. We connect on DM if you want to share again. Thank you all for tuning in. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.